The galaxy was a cold place for humans. 300 years ago, Earth burned. The Devourer swarm came from the dark spaces between stars and ate everything. Cities fell. Oceans boiled. Billions died in weeks. The survivors ran to the stars in whatever ships they could find. Now humans lived as wanderers. They had no home, no planet to call their own. They worked as traders, soldiers for hire, and scavengers. Most alien races looked down on them. Some called them cursed. Others called them pests. Very few called them friends. Yuna was one of these wanderers. She was 34 years old, with short, black hair and tired eyes. Once, she had been a combat medic in the Human Defense Corps. She had saved many lives and taken a few. But the war broke something inside her. She lost her entire platoon on a moon called Gravesend. 15 people she loved. Gone in one terrible night. After that, Yuna stopped being a soldier. She became a scavenger on Ashfall, a lawless border moon where criminals and refugees lived side by side. She spent her days searching through crashed ships and abandoned stations, looking for anything she could sell. It was lonely work, but she preferred it that way. Dead ships did not ask questions. They did not expect her to save them. On the day, everything changed. Yuna was exploring a Valari cruiser that had crashed into Ashfall's rocky surface. The Valari were an ancient warrior race. They were tall and covered in short fur that ranged from silver to deep black. Their eyes were golden and sharp. They were proud, powerful, and they hated humans more than any other species. The Valari blamed humanity for the Devourer swarm. They said humans had awakened the swarm with their careless exploration of deep space. This was probably not true, but the Valari did not care about truth. They cared about having someone to blame. Yuna moved carefully through the broken ship. The air smelled like smoke and blood. She found dead Valari warriors everywhere, their bodies torn by weapons fire. Someone had attacked this ship with terrible force. But who would dare attack the Valari? She found her answer in the cargo hold. A female Valari lay against the wall, her silver fur stained dark with blood. She was dying. Yuna could see it in the way she breathed, in the light fading from her golden eyes. But what made Yuna stop was what the female held in her arms. A cub. A Valari cub, no more than 2 years old. He had dark gray fur and eyes like 2 small suns. He was alive and unharmed, pressed tight against his mother's chest. The female saw Yuna and raised a weak hand. For a moment, Yuna thought she would attack. Valari killed humans on sight in their territory. But instead, the female spoke in broken common tongue. "Please," she whispered. "They hunt him. The Crimson Court. Please. He's the last of the bloodline." Yuna did not move. Her mind raced with questions. The Crimson Court was a powerful faction of Valari nobles. Why would they hunt one of their own? What bloodline? Why was this mother asking a human for help? "I cannot," Yuna said. "Your people would kill me for touching him." The female grabbed Yuna's wrist with surprising strength. Her golden eyes burned with desperate fire. "They will kill him. He's just a child. Please. I know what humans are. I know you save children. I heard the stories. On the burning world, humans saved children first. Before themselves. Before anything." Yuna felt something crack inside her chest. The female was right. When Earth fell, the evacuation ships took children first. Parents stayed behind to die so their children could live. It was the one thing humans were known for across the galaxy. Even the races that hated them admitted this. Humans loved their children more than life itself. "Please," the female said again. Her voice was getting weaker. "His name does not matter. Give him a new name. A human name. Raise him far from here. Let him live." The cub watched Yuna with those golden eyes. He did not cry. He did not make any sound at all. He just looked at her, as if he already understood that his life hung on her next words. Yuna thought about her brother, Tay. He had been 7 years old when Earth fell. She had carried him to the evacuation ship herself, fighting through crowds of desperate people. She had put him on the ship and turned back to find their parents. The ship left without her. She never saw Tay again. Later, she learned the ship had been destroyed by the swarm 3 days later. Her brother died in the cold darkness of space, alone and afraid. She had failed him. She had failed everyone. But maybe, just this once, she could save someone. "I will take him," Yuna said. The female smiled. It looked strange on her alien face, but it was a mother's smile. Yuna had seen that smile 1,000 times in the evacuation camps of Earth. "Thank you, human. You have given me peace." She pressed the cub into Yuna's arms. He was warm and surprisingly light. His fur was soft under her fingers. He smelled like smoke and milk, and something sweet she could not name. "His blood is special," the female whispered, her eyes closing. "When he is older, he will be strong. Stronger than any Valari alive. The Crimson Court fears this. They fear what he could become." "I do not understand," Yuna said, but the female was gone. Her last breath left her body in a soft sigh, and she was still. Yuna stood in the broken ship, holding a Valari cub in her arms. She knew she was making a terrible mistake. The Crimson Court would hunt her. Every Valari in the galaxy would want her dead for taking one of their children. She was alone, poor, and broken. But she looked down at the cub, and he looked up at her, and she knew she could not leave him. "Tay," she said softly. "I will call you Tay." The cub blinked at her. Then, slowly, he reached up and touched her face with one small hand. His touch was gentle, curious. Yuna felt tears running down her cheeks. She had not cried since Gravesend. She thought she had forgotten how. "I will keep you safe," she promised. "I do not know how. I do not know where we will go. But I will keep you safe, little one. This I swear." She carried him out of the dead ship and into the harsh light of Ashfall's twin suns. Behind her lay a dead mother and a broken world. Ahead lay danger, pain, and uncertain futures. But for the first time in years, Yuna felt something other than emptiness in her heart. She felt hope. 7 years passed like shadows across the stars. Yuna and Tay never stayed in one place for long. They moved from station to station, planet to planet, always one step ahead of the hunters. The Crimson Court had spies everywhere. Every time Yuna thought they were safe, she would see a Valari watching them from across a market or notice a ship following them through space. Then they would run again. It was a hard life, but Tay never complained. He grew faster than any human child. By his 7th year, he stood as tall as Yuna's shoulder. His dark gray fur had grown thick and healthy. His golden eyes had become sharp and watchful. He moved with a grace that made Yuna's heart ache, because it reminded her that he was not human, that he belonged to a people who wanted him dead, but in every way that mattered. He was her son. She taught him everything she knew. How to fight with fists and knives and broken bottles. How to hide in crowds and disappear into shadows. How to read people's faces and know when they were lying. How to survive when the universe wanted you dead. These were human skills, born from 300 years of wandering. They were ugly skills, street fighting and scavenging and running away. Nothing like the elegant warrior arts of the Valari. But they were effective. They kept you alive when everything else failed. Tay learned quickly. His Valari body was built for combat in ways that human bodies were not. He was stronger, faster, and his senses were sharper. But he had a strange gentleness that surprised Yuna. He did not like hurting things. Even when they sparred, he held back his strength. One evening on a trading station called Rust Harbor, They were practicing in their small rented room. Yuna attacked with a wooden training knife. Tay blocked easily and could have countered with a strike to her ribs. Instead, he stepped back and let the opening pass. Yuna lowered her knife. "You are holding back again." Tay looked at the floor. "I do not want to hurt you, mother." The word made Yuna's chest tighten. He had started calling her that 2 years ago. She had told him the truth about his real mother, about the crashed ship and the Crimson Court. But he had chosen to call her mother anyway. "The universe will hurt you far worse than I ever could," she said. "If you do not learn to fight with your full strength, you will die. Do you understand?" Tay nodded slowly. "I understand. But when I fight with full strength, I feel something dark inside me. It scares me." Yuna knelt down to look into his eyes. "That darkness is part of you. It does not make you evil. What makes you good or evil is how you choose to use it. A knife can kill a person or cut bread to feed a hungry child. The knife does not decide." "You do." Double quotes. Tay thought about this for a long moment. Then he raised his hands into a fighting stance. "Again, mother. I will try harder." They trained until both of them were tired and sweating. Then they ate a simple meal of rice and dried meat. And Yuna told Tay stories about Earth. She told him about blue oceans and green forests, about cities that touched the clouds and children who played in fields of golden wheat. She told him about her brother, the first Tay, and how much she had loved him. Tay listened to every word with wide eyes. "Do you think humans will ever have a home again?" he asked. "I do not know," Yuna said honestly. "But I hope so. I hope someday our children will run through fields again, with no fear of the stars." Tay was quiet for a moment. Then he said, "When I am older, I will help humans find a home. I promise." Yuna smiled and touched his face. "You have a good heart, little one." They found trouble on Pale Harbor. It was supposed to be a quiet station, a place for traders and travelers far from Valari space. Yuna had heard it was safe. She should have known better. Nowhere was safe for them. The 3 assassins came at night. They were Valari warriors, tall and powerful, with black fur and eyes like burning coals. They wore the red marks of the Crimson Court on their armor. Each one had killed dozens of enemies in combat. Yuna saw them first. She pushed Tay into a storage closet and whispered, "Stay hidden. No matter what you hear, do not come out." "Mother, no. Let me fight with you." "You are not ready." "Please, Tay, trust me." She closed the door before he could argue. The assassins found her in the corridor outside. They laughed when they saw her. A human woman, alone, facing 3 Valari warriors. It was not even a fair fight. "Where's the cub?" the leader asked. He was the largest of the 3, with scars across his face. "Give him to us, and we will kill you quickly." Yuna pulled out her knife. It was a simple blade, nothing special. "He is not here. You wasted your trip." The leader smiled. "We followed you for 3 months, human. We know the cub is close. After we kill you, we will find him and cut him into pieces. The Crimson Court wants his head as proof." Yuna attacked. She was fast for a human, and she had years of combat experience. She killed the first assassin with a knife to the throat before he could react. The second one she wounded badly, cutting deep into his arm. But the third one, the leader, was too skilled. He caught her blade and broke her wrist with a twist of his hand. Then he drove his plasma sword through her stomach. Yuna fell. The pain was beyond anything she had ever felt. She could feel her life bleeding out onto the cold metal floor. The leader stood over her. "Weak. Humans are always so weak." Tay burst through the closet door. He moved like something out of a nightmare. His eyes had changed. They were no longer soft and gentle. They burned with a golden fire that lit up the dark corridor. The darkness Yuna had warned him about had woken up. The wounded assassin tried to raise his weapon. Tay was on him before he could move. One strike, and the assassin's neck snapped like a dry branch. The leader backed away, his confidence gone. Impossible. You are just a cub. How can you? Tay did not let him finish. He attacked with a fury that shook the walls. The leader was a master warrior with decades of training. The fight lasted 11 seconds. When it was over, the leader lay in pieces on the floor. Tay stood among the bodies, breathing hard, his fur covered in blood that was not his own. Then he saw Yuna. The fire left his eyes. He ran to her and lifted her gently in his arms. "Mother, mother, please. Do not leave me." Yuna looked up at him. Her vision was fading, but she could still see his face. "You did well, little one. I am proud of you. I will get help. I will find a doctor. You will be fine. Please, please do not leave me." "I am not going anywhere," she whispered. "Not yet." Station security found them like that. A Valari cub holding a dying human woman surrounded by the bodies of 3 elite assassins. They did not know what to think. They did not know what they were seeing, but Yuna knew. She was seeing her son become something more than she ever imagined. Something the galaxy had never seen before. A Valari with a human heart. The doctor said Yuna should have died. The plasma blade had cut through 3 organs and burned, a hole the size of a fist in her belly. Any normal person would have bled out in minutes. But Yuna was not normal. She was stubborn in a way that made the doctors shake their heads and mutter about impossible humans. It took 6 months for her to recover. 6 months of surgeries, treatments, and slow healing. Tay stayed by her side through all of it. He slept in a chair next to her bed. He held her hand when the pain was too much. He talked to her when she was too weak to talk back. The medical bills ate everything they had. Their savings, their ship, everything Yuna had worked for over 15 years. When she finally walked out of the hospital, they had nothing but the clothes on their backs, and Yuna could not fight anymore. The damage to her body was too great. She could walk, slowly and with pain, but she would never be a warrior again. The scavenger life was over. She could barely climb stairs without stopping to rest. They ended up in a refugee district on the station, living in a small room that cost almost nothing because it was barely bigger than a closet. Yuna found work repairing electronics, but her hands shook too much to do it well. They were running out of options. That was when Dawan found them. Dawan was an old human man with gray hair and a face full of wrinkles. He had been a fighter once long ago, and now he worked as a promoter for the Grand Circuit. The Grand Circuit was the biggest fighting competition in the galaxy. Warriors from every species came to compete for glory, wealth, and fame. The champions became legends. Dawan had heard about the incident on Pale Harbor. Everyone had. A Valari cub killing 3 elite assassins in 11 seconds was the kind of story that spread fast. He came to their tiny room and looked at Tay with hungry eyes. "You have talent, boy. Real talent. I have been in this business for 40 years, and I have never seen anything like what you did." Yuna stepped between them, even though it hurt to move. He is 12 years old. He's not a gladiator. In the circuit, age does not matter. Only skill. And your boy has more skill in one hand than most fighters have in their whole body. Dawan smiled, showing teeth that were mostly fake. Think about it. The prize money from one championship fight could pay for everything. A real home. Medical care for you. A future. Yuna shook her head. I did not save him from death so he could fight in an arena for the entertainment of strangers. Tay spoke up. Mother. She turned to look at him. He had grown so much in the past year. He was almost as tall as her now, and there was something in his eyes that had not been there before. A hardness. A determination. You gave up everything for me, Tay said. Your life, your health, your future. Let me fight for you now. Let me give something back. You do not owe me anything. I know, but I want to do this. Not because I owe you, because I love you, and I cannot watch you suffer when I have the power to help. Yuna looked at her son for a long time. She remembered finding him in that crashed ship, a tiny cub with golden eyes. She remembered teaching him to fight in dirty alleys and dark rooms. She remembered him carrying her out of Pale Harbor, covered in blood, crying for the first time since she had known him. He was not a child anymore. He had made his choice. All right, she said, but I will be watching every fight. And if I think you are in danger, we stop. No arguments. Tay smiled. It was Yuna's smile, the one she made when she was being brave. No arguments, Mother. The Grand Circuit took place on a massive station called the Colosseum. It was built just for fighting, a floating arena that could hold 200,000 spectators. Fighters came from every corner of the galaxy. Humans, Velari, Kreth, Nori, and a dozen other species Yuna could not name. Tay entered at 12 years old, the youngest fighter in the circuit's history. The crowds did not know what to think of him. A Velari cub raised by a human? It was a joke. It was an insult to the sport. The betting pools gave him no chance at all. His first opponent was a Kreth named Gorak. The Kreth were huge creatures, 8 feet tall with 4 arms and skin like stone. They were known for their strength and their anger. Gorak had killed 6 opponents in the arena and crippled a dozen more. The crowd cheered when Gorak entered the ring. They fell silent when Tay walked in after him. Yuna sat in a private booth high above the arena. Her hands gripped the railing so hard her knuckles turned white. Beside her, Dawan was sweating. Maybe this was a mistake, he muttered. Be quiet, Yuna said. The bell rang. Gorak charged with a roar that shook the walls. He was fast for his size, a mountain of muscle and fury coming straight at Tay. The crowd held their breath. Tay did not move. He stood perfectly still, watching the Kreth come. At the last possible second, he stepped to the side. The movement was small, just a few inches, but it was enough. Gorak's fist passed through empty air, and Tay struck. His hand shot out and hit the back of Gorak's skull, right where the nerve cluster was hidden beneath the thick skin. It was a spot that only experts knew about, a weakness that Kreth warriors trained for years to protect. Gorak fell. The giant crashed to the ground and did not get up. The arena was silent for 3 heartbeats. Then it exploded with noise. Tay stood alone in the ring, looking up at the crowd. His eyes found Yuna in her booth. He smiled at her, that same brave smile she had taught him. Yuna smiled back, tears running down her face. Dawan laughed and slapped his leg. The human's cub. That is what we will call him. The human's cub. The name spread through the circuit like fire. Some people meant it as an insult. A Velari raised by human trash, fighting like a street rat. But Tay wore the name with pride. He was the human's cub, and he was just getting started. Over the next months, he fought again and again. He faced warriors twice his size and 3 times his age. He faced aliens with claws and fangs and weapons built into their bodies. He faced them all, and he won. Jiwoo found them after his 10th victory. She was a human engineer, a young woman with clever hands and a sharp tongue. She built equipment for fighters, custom gear that gave them advantages in the arena. Your boy is good, she told Yuna. But good is not enough in the circuit. The other fighters will learn his tricks. He needs better equipment, faster armor, sharper weapons. We cannot afford better equipment. Jiwoo grinned. I am not asking for money. I am asking for a partnership. Let me work with him, and we split the prize money, 50-50. It was a fair deal. Yuna agreed. Jiwoo became part of their small family. She was loud and bossy and never stopped talking, but she was also brilliant. The gear she built for Tay helped him move faster and hit harder. More importantly, she became his friend, but the greatest change came from an unexpected place. Hyunsik was old, even for a Valari. His fur had turned completely white, and he walked with a cane carved from dark wood. He had been a warrior once, one of the greatest in Valari history. He had also served Tay's grandfather, before the Crimson Court rose to power. He found Tay after a fight and bowed deeply. "Young prince, I have been searching for you for many years." Tay looked at him with careful eyes. "I am no prince. I am just a fighter. You are the last of your bloodline. The blood of champions flows in your veins. But you fight like a human street rat, not like the warrior you were born to be. Human fighting has kept me alive." Hyunsik smiled. "Yes, and that is why you will be greater than any Valari before you. Because you have learned what our proud people have forgotten. How to survive. How to adapt. How to fight without honor when honor means death." He bowed again. "Let me teach you the old ways, young prince. Let me show you what your blood can do. Then combine it with what your mother taught you and become something the galaxy has never seen." Tay looked at Yuna. She nodded slowly. "All right," Tay said. "Teach me." And so the human's cub began his true training. 5 years in the circuit made Tay a legend. 40-7 fights. 47 victories. Not a single loss. No one in the history of the Grand Circuit had ever done what he was doing. Champions came from across the galaxy to challenge him, and champions fell at his feet. His fighting style was like nothing anyone had seen before. He moved with the grace and precision of a Valari master, using ancient techniques that Hyunsik taught him. But when those techniques failed, he changed. He became unpredictable, wild, fighting with human tricks that made traditional warriors stumble. He kicked dirt in their eyes. He used the environment as a weapon. He did whatever was needed to win. The crowds loved him. They hated him. They could not stop watching him to the humans scattered across the galaxy. He was a symbol of hope. Here was someone raised by their people, fighting with their spirit, proving that humans were more than just wanderers and refugees. They filled the arena whenever he fought, waving banners and chanting his name. To the Valari, he was a mystery. Some called him a traitor to his blood. Others whispered that he was the warrior their legends had predicted, the one who would change everything. The Crimson Court called him an abomination and offered a fortune to anyone who could kill him in the arena. No one could collect. Yuna watched every fight from her private booth. She was older now, her black hair streaked with gray, her body broken by old wounds that never fully healed. But her eyes were still sharp, and her heart still stopped every time Tay took a hit. She had been his mother for 17 years. She had taught him to walk, to talk, to fight, to survive. She had given him everything she had. And now she watched him become something greater than she ever imagined. After each victory, Tay would look up at her booth. He would find her face in the crowd and smile. That smile said more than words ever could. It said, "This is for you. Everything I do is for you." But not everyone who came to see Tay wanted to watch him fight. Sora arrived on a ship made of silver and gold, with a crew of Valari soldiers who wore the blue marks of the noble houses. She was beautiful in the cold way of Valari nobility, with silver fur and eyes like frozen stars. She asked for a meeting with Tay, and because she came with gifts instead of weapons, Yuna allowed it. They met in a private room at the arena. Yuna sat in the corner, watching carefully. Jiwoo stood by the door, ready to call security if anything went wrong. Hyunsik stood behind Tay like a shadow. Sora looked at them all with an expression that might have been respect. "You have built an interesting family, young prince." "I am not a prince," Tay said. You are. Whether you accept it or not, you are the last heir to the Valari throne. Your grandfather was the greatest king our people ever had. Your mother was his only child, and you are her only son. The Crimson Court killed my mother. They've been trying to kill me since I was a baby. Sora nodded. The Crimson Court fears you. They took power after your grandfather died, and they have ruled through fear ever since. But not all Valari support them. Many of us remember the old ways. Many of us have been waiting for you. She leaned forward, her cold eyes suddenly burning with intensity. I can offer you an army, ships, weapons, everything you need to destroy the Crimson Court and take your rightful place as king. With your power and my resources, we could change the galaxy. Tay was quiet for a long moment. Yuna could see the conflict in his face. The rage was there. It had always been there, buried deep, waiting. The Crimson Court had murdered his mother. They had hunted him his whole life. Part of him wanted nothing more than to burn them all. But he looked at Yuna before he answered, thought she did not speak. She did not need to. After 17 years, they could read each other without words. She asked him a simple question with her eyes. What kind of person do you want to be? Tay turned back to Sora. No. The noblewoman blinked. No. Do you understand what I am offering? Revenge, power, a throne. I understand. But I did not become a fighter to lead armies or sit on thrones. My mother did not raise me to be a weapon for anyone's war. He looked at Yuna with soft eyes. She raised me to be free. Sora stared at him like he was speaking a language she did not understand. Then, slowly, she stood. The Grand Championship is in 3 months, she said. The Crimson Court has entered their greatest warrior, Lord Kangman. He is the one who ordered your mother's death. He will come to this arena, and he will try to kill you in front of the whole galaxy. Tay's hands tightened into fists. I know. You could avoid the fight. You have enough victories to walk away with honor. I am not going to run. Sora studied him for a long moment. Then she smiled, and for the first time, it looked real. Perhaps the legends were right about you after all. Good luck, young prince. The galaxy will be watching. She left without another word. The Grand Championship came on a day when the stars themselves seemed to hold their breath. 200,000 people filled the Colosseum. Billions more watched on screens across the galaxy. Every species, every faction, every world had their eyes on this single fight. Lord Kangman entered the arena first. He was massive, even for a Valari, with black fur and red eyes that burned like hot coals. His armor was made of dark metal, covered in the symbols of the Crimson Court. He had killed more than 100 opponents in combat. He had never lost. Tay entered from the opposite side. He wore the light armor that Jivu had built for him, simple and silver, with no symbols at all. He looked small compared to Kangman. He looked like a child facing a monster, but his eyes were calm. Yuna stood in her booth, gripping the railing so hard her old wounds screamed in protest. Jivu stood beside her, pale with fear. Humsik watched with ancient eyes that had seen too many battles. The bell rang. Kangmin did not charge like most fighters. He moved slowly, carefully, studying Tay with the patience of a predator who knows his prey cannot escape. He was too experienced to underestimate his opponent. They circled each other. The crowd was so quiet that Tay could hear his own heartbeat. Kangman attacked first. His strikes were perfect, each one carrying enough force to break bones and tear flesh. Tay blocked and dodged, but barely. Kangman was faster than he looked. Stronger than anyone Tay had ever faced. They fought for 5 minutes, then 10. The crowd gasped with every exchange. Tay landed hits, but they barely seemed to affect the giant. Kangman landed hits, and each one left Tay staggering. Blood appeared on Tay's fur. His breathing became heavy. The perfect Valari techniques that Hyunsik had taught him were not enough. Kangmin knew them all. He was the master who had trained most of the Crimson Court's warriors. Slowly, terribly, Tae began to lose. A crushing blow sent him to his knees. The crowd screamed. Kangmin stood over him, raising his fist for the killing strike. "Your mother died begging," Kangmin said quietly, so only Tae could hear. "She cried like a weak human. And now you will die the same way." Tae looked up at the booth where Yuna stood. She was standing. For the first time in years, she was standing without support, gripping the railing, her face fierce with a light that defied every broken bone in her body. He could read her lips. "Get up, little one. Get up." Something changed. In Tae. The ancient Valari techniques fell away. The perfect forms that Hyunsik had taught him disappeared. In their place came something older, something human. He moved like Yuna had taught him in dirty alleys on Ashfall. Like a survivor. Like someone who refused to die no matter what the universe threw at them. Kangmin's killing blow met empty air. Tae had rolled aside at the last moment, a movement so crude that no Valari warrior would ever use it. Before Kangmin could recover, Tae struck. Not a Valari strike. A human strike. A street-fighting move that targeted the throat, the one spot that no armor could protect. Kangmin fell. The arena exploded with noise that shook the station itself. Tae stood over his enemy, breathing hard, covered in blood, both his and not his. He could kill Kangmin. Everyone expected him to. The Crimson Court Lord had murdered his mother, hunted him his whole life, and tried to destroy everything he loved. No one would blame him for taking revenge. Instead, Tae stepped back. He looked up at the cameras that broadcast his image across the galaxy. When he spoke, his voice was calm and clear. "I am the son of two peoples. Valari blood runs in my veins, but a human heart beats in my chest. My mother gave me life. Yuna gave me a reason to live." He looked at the booth where Yuna stood crying, where Jiwoo was screaming with joy, where old Hyunsik was smiling for the first time in decades. "Remember both," Tae said. "When you remember this day." The human's cub had become the greatest champion the galaxy had ever seen. The fall of the Crimson Court came faster than anyone expected. After Tae's victory, the galaxy changed. Valari, who had hidden their hatred of the court for decades, finally spoke up. Sora's faction moved quickly, taking control of the noble houses one by one. Within a year, the Crimson Court was nothing but a memory. Its leaders scattered or dead. Sora came to Tae again, this time with an even greater offer. The throne was his if he wanted it. He was the last of the royal bloodline, the greatest warrior in Valari history, and the most famous person in the galaxy. No one would challenge his right to rule. Tae refused again. "I have no interest in ruling people who abandoned me," he told her. "The Valari are your problem now. I have other work to do." Sora shook her head in wonder. What could be more important than a throne? Tae smiled. It was Yuna's smile, the one she made when she was about to do something stubborn. "You will see." He used his championship winnings to create something new. He called it the Horizon Foundation. Its purpose was simple: protect orphan children of all species. No matter who their people were or what wars their worlds were fighting. The Foundation built stations on the borders between territories, in the empty spaces where no government had power. Children who had lost their families could come there and find safety, food, education, a chance at a future. "Every child deserves what I had," Tae told the reporters who came to interview him. "Someone willing to die for them. Someone who looks at them and sees not a burden, but a gift. My mother found me in a crashed ship on a lawless moon. She was alone and poor and broken, and she still chose to save me. I want to give other children that same chance." The Galaxy watched in amazement as the greatest fighter in history put down his weapons and started building schools. Jiwoo became the Foundation's chief engineer. She designed ships and stations that could protect children from pirates and warlords. Her technology was the most advanced in the galaxy, because she had spent years building gear that could keep one stubborn Valari alive. "I used to build weapons," she told Tay one day, watching children play in a garden she had designed. "Now I build homes. It is strange how much better this feels." Yoon-sik stayed as well. He was too old to fight, but he trained the next generation of protectors. Young warriors from every species came to learn from him, eager to serve the Foundation's mission. "You fight not for glory," he told his students. "You fight for those who cannot fight for themselves. This is the highest calling a warrior can have." The Foundation grew. First there were hundreds of children under its protection, then thousands, then tens of thousands. It spread across the galaxy like seeds, carried by the wind. But the greatest change came from the humans. For 300 years, they had been wanderers, refugees without a home, looked down on by every other species. But now the galaxy saw them differently. If one human woman could raise a Valari cub into the greatest champion ever known, perhaps humans were not the cursed wanderers everyone believed. The Valari High Council formally apologized to the human diaspora. It was the first time in history that the proud Valari had apologized to anyone. Trade agreements followed, then treaties. Planets that had been close to humans for centuries began opening their doors. Slowly, carefully, humans began to find their place in the galaxy again. Yuna lived to see it all. She watched her son build something greater than any throne. She watched him change the way the galaxy thought about her people. She watched children from 100 species look up at him with hope in their eyes. But her body was old and broken, held together by stubbornness and love. The wounds from Pale Harbor had never fully healed. The years of running and hiding and fighting had taken their toll. By the time she turned 93, the doctor said only her iron will was keeping her alive. Tay came to see her on what they both knew was her last night. She lay in a bed in the medical station, surrounded by machines that beeped and hummed softly. Her hair was completely white now, and her face was lined with age. But her eyes were still sharp, still full of the fierce spirit that had kept her fighting for so long. Tay sat beside her and held her hand. It was small and fragile in his large Valari grip. "You should go," Yuna whispered. "The Foundation needs you. The children need you. They can wait. You always were stubborn." She smiled weakly. "Got that from me." Tay laughed, but there were tears in his eyes. "I got everything from you, Mother. Everything that matters." They sat in silence for a while. Outside the window, stars burned in the endless darkness of space. The same stars that had watched Yuna find a tiny cub in a crashed ship, that had watched her run and fight and sacrifice everything to keep him alive. "I was so scared when I found you," Yuna said softly. "I had no idea what I was doing. I was broken and alone and barely surviving. I did not know how to raise a child, especially not a Valari child. I just knew that I could not leave you." "Why?" Tay asked. It was a question he had never asked before. "You had nothing to gain. The whole galaxy was against you. Why did you do it?" Yuna was quiet for a long moment. Then she said, "Because that is what humans do. We save children, even when it costs us everything, even when there is no hope. We look at a child in danger, and something inside us says, 'Not this one. This one lives.'" She squeezed his hand with what little strength she had left. "It is the one thing we have kept through all the centuries of wandering. The one thing the universe could not take from us. Our love for our children. I think it is the best thing about us." Tay leaned down and pressed his forehead against hers, a Valari gesture of deepest love and respect. "Thank you, Mother, for everything. Thank you for being worth it." She closed her eyes and smiled. When the sun rose over the medical station, Yuna was gone. Her face was peaceful, her hands still held in Tay's grip. Her work was finally complete. Tay did not cry. He had done his mourning long ago, in all the years when every day felt like it might be their last. Instead, he sat with her until the morning light filled the room, remembering everything she had given him. Then he stood and walked to the Foundation Central. A thousand children were gathered there from 100 species across the galaxy. They looked up at him with wide eyes, waiting. They had heard that his mother had died. They wanted to know what would happen next. Tay sat down among them on the soft grass of the garden floor. He was the greatest champion in history, feared by warriors and respected by kings. But here, surrounded by children, he was just Tay, the human's cub. "Let me tell you a story," he said, "about a human woman who found a cub in a broken ship, and how she taught him the most important lesson in the galaxy." A small Valari girl with silver fur raised her hand. "What lesson?" Tay smiled. It was Yuna's smile, the one she had given him every time he won a fight he was not supposed to win. That love is the only thing stronger than hate, and that anyone, human, Valari, or otherwise, can become a hero if someone believes in them first. He looked around at the children, at all the orphans who had found a home because of one human woman's impossible choice. "My mother believed in me," Tay said, "and now I believe in all of you. Whatever the galaxy tells you that you are, whatever they say you can or cannot become, remember this: you are worth saving. You are worth fighting for. You are worth everything." The children leaned in, hanging on his words. Some of them would become warriors. Others would become engineers, doctors, teachers, leaders. All of them would carry Yuna's legacy forward, spreading it across the stars like seeds of hope. And somewhere, in whatever place awaited beyond life, Yuna watched her son and smiled. She had found a cub in a crashed ship on a lawless moon. She had raised him with nothing but love and stubbornness, and the desperate belief that one person could make a difference. And she had been right. The story of the human's cub would be told for 1,000 years. But the story that mattered, the story that changed everything, was simpler than any legend. It was the story of a woman who chose to love a child who was not her own, and in doing so, changed the galaxy forever. That was humanity's gift to the stars. That was Yuna's gift to Tay, and it would never be forgotten.